Bonjour à tous, merci de nous accueillir ici aujourd'hui. Donc c'est un peu drôle pour deux Québécois de venir faire une conférence sur une situation au Québec à Paris en anglais, mais on va le faire quand même. Just to start, a bit of a context. I am managing Bibliopresto, which is a non-profit organization created in Quebec by the Public Library Association, the National Library, etc. We work for the libraries in Quebec. Libraries are not our clients, they are our members. So we really work for them in all things digital for the libraries.
And the Marque is now an almost 30-year-old company. We've almost always been in the cultural industry, but we've started 12 or 13 years ago now doing content distribution for publishers, and now we also develop Canto Station, or e-lending service that is used in Quebec, but also in France, Belgium, and other European countries.
So we made a partnership between Bibliopresto, the public libraries, and the Marque 8 years ago to build that thing that we call Prenumérique.ca. So if you know, for example, the PNB, the Prêt numérique en bibliothèque system that has been implemented in France, Belgium, and Switzerland in the last year, it's mostly based on what we developed in Quebec starting in 2011. To give you an idea of the result, it's going pretty well for us. It's almost every public library in Quebec and in New Brunswick, which is the province just east of Quebec, that are using the platform. We also work with the college library. Our libraries have invested a lot of money, have bought a lot of ebooks, and we have loaned about 8.4 million ebooks during those past 8 years. And we have about 500,000 users of the platform that represent almost 15% of public library users in Quebec. So, about DRM. When we started the project, using Adobe DRM makes sense. It was a publisher know that thing. It allow us to replicate usual library landing models. It wasn't tied to a single platform like Amazon or Google or Apple or etc. And it was, in fact, the industrial standard at the time, so it was pretty easy for everyone. But it doesn't work anymore. We are doing great numbers, it's okay, but it's kind of time we change. We have lots of hoops for patrons to jump through. You have to understand we have a lot of senior citizens that are using the platform. It's very hard for them. We have to make a lot of third-party app tech support. We have multiple interface. We don't like that. Our librarians have to change their skill set because they have to support users, they have to make technical clinics, etc. They don't always have the training to do that sort of thing, so it's a pain in the neck for them. Not to mention, in the system that we build in Quebec, the library foot the bill for the DRM. We didn't see any true innovation from Adobe in years, except when they have to create new code names for errors. You know it's a grab bag of error codes. We have a lot of privacy concern in the last year with Adobe. They were transmitting personal info in clear, so it's a problem for us as a librarian. And of course, they have a big failure to support new and upcoming format. To give you a very concrete example, in the context of public library in Quebec, that's the amount of money we spend only on ACS fees. So that's almost $1 million that we did not spend on buying more books, on doing more programs. That's money we just spent to Adobe. We don't like that. In the context of school, we are growing demands from school for ebooks, and we are working with them. We made a pilot project with the school board 3 years ago. It mostly was a failure, but it was a positive failure. We knew that it would be a failure, but we have to prove it. Because the Ministry of Education, etc., they need some data, they need some proof. So we get in, we prove it, it was a failure. Operating and using traditional DRM like ACS didn't work in a school environment. Teachers would work around the DRM, so either they would not use it because it was too complicated, or they work around and just broke the damn DRM. So it wasn't very efficient. But right now, we have a public mandate from the Ministry of Education. We have a contract with them to bring an e-lending platform to all the schools in Quebec. So we have to do something new. And it's very clearly and precisely wrote in our contract with the Ministry of Education in Quebec. We cannot use ACS as the protection system for the lending. So we have obviously to go elsewhere.
So this is where we come in as the Marque and as a provider of solutions. So we saw a long time ago that LCP was the way to move from the current thing. I think Laurent said a few things that I'm going to repeat quickly. LCP is not bound to a single vendor, so we can be sure that it's going to survive. It's way simpler to use for end user. You don't need an account. You just need, like Daniel showed us, a passphrase that can be decided by your library with you in mind, that you can know and remember easily, unlike the accounts, the various accounts that you get. It's secure, or at least it's always going to be secure enough for the publishers. I don't think we're going to see an issue there because we use strong encryptions. We learned from the best in the industry, and mostly it's way cheaper than what we've currently used. And I would say there that it's also cheap. It's very cheap in that EDRLab is a big supporter, and they make a lot of effort to make sure that everything is well integrated and works very well. And then they do an amazing amount of work with very little cost. And it's privacy conscious, as we said before. And an important thing for us has been that it's open spec and an open source. And I'm a technical guy, so whenever there's a bug, I need to go see what's going. I don't just want an error message like the Adobe gave us. I want an open spec and an open source so that I can work on it, understand deeply what's the problem and how I can fix it. But thankfully, we haven't had to do that a lot because LCP is very easy to operate compared to like the amount of effort and infrastructure that you need to make an LCP server work. It's a very small binary. It's a very small footprint on your server, so you can make it work for very, again, cheap prices. And LCP, as taught when we started writing the LCP spec, and we did it with input from public libraries, and I think it shows in the product that we got today, in the spec that we got today, because we taught about the library workflows, about extending loans, about returning loans, about giving access to the library systems to do these actions, and all of that respecting the license and respecting the publisher's needs. So at some point, we also saw that if we wanted to make it a real good experience and make a real migration from the Adobe ecosystem to LCP, we also needed to build an app. I don't think the market is. We've seen real efforts in the last years, but the market is not there in having like a very public and commercial app. So we decided to start building it with support for some cities. So it's a very simple app that gives you access to your books, and it's transparently gives you access to LCP protected book. Again, we like open source and open standards at the Marque, so it's all based on OPDSV that our public libraries support. We just integrated them in our own app. We use our R2 renderer, and we reuse as much stuff as we can from the open source community. We also nowadays we've also started supporting audiobooks, which I will talk a bit more later on. So the app we released it I think 6 months ago officially. We did a few test run with some cities in Quebec. Well, Quebec City starting because that's where we're from. it's still early stage, but we already see that it's a great success for us. We're seeing a great success in the experience of users. So we go from the 15 to 20 steps that it required to open an ACS4 protected license from your web platform down to now 5 steps, but I think we can reduce it even more in the next few years. We've emitted, so this might be technical, we created 25,000 licenses right now of LCP, which is still early for us because as we see, we do a lot of loans, lots of checkouts in Quebec City, but this is growing monthly very, very rapidly, even though we haven't required very little support for librarians and for our own tech support in Quebec.
Almost none, in fact.
We can do more. So right now it's only, because it's such an early project for us, we've only launched on iOS. We've been developing the Android version quite hard, but it's not at a point where we're satisfied with it yet. So we're still working hard on it, and it's going to be coming soon. And then looking forward, where we want to go with this whole LCP ecosystem, we want to extend LCP to other formats. So recently, I've been asked by Laurent to implement the encryption side of LCP for PDF. So I just released the code, and we will hopefully integrate a PDF in our apps and on all our content. So whether it's the Eden content, the Spanish content from Libranda, or our own Quebec publishers. So hopefully we'll all have PDF supports, which is going to unlock a big part of our catalog. And we've seen that audiobook is going like crazy, so we want to see where we can go with PDF as well, with audiobook as well. And an issue for us that has been ongoing is that our app only gives access to LCP content. So we have obviously some publishers and some distributors haven't implemented LCP in their server yet. So we're working with them to try to get their content in LCP. So this is more political effort than a technological one. And again, I talked about library or workflows. We want to integrate these workflows even more on the website, either for platform administrators or for users to do any actions that they usually did in their ACS4, like return a book or get information about the status of the license. We want to integrate that into the web platform as well. And that's it.